the Higher House, at our podcast about global culture, celebrating the good, the bad, and growing together. Just a quick heads up before we dive in today. We're going to be chatting about some sensitive stuff: anxiety, mental health, therapy, pills, not so fun panic attacks as well, that if you're fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to have experienced those. We're not doctors, we're not therapists, nothing here is medical advice. If you're going through a tough time, please reach out and talk to somebody, a friend, a doctor, professional, get help. It's okay not to be okay. Before we get into...
That was very serious.
That was so serious. We promise you it will be interesting, hopefully. But before we get into it, highs and lows.
I think it's another week of us having the same high and probably low.
We do.
We did a thing.
We did it, guys. We did the 21K.
And we mostly survived.
Hated it. It was... Can we just paint a bit of a picture, right?
Yeah, I think the listeners need a bit of a picture.
They need a picture. When you came to me a couple of months ago and you were like, I found this 21K. It's on a wine farm. Tick. Let's do it. I don't know about you, but I, at that stage, did not think we'd be doing a trail run. I was just like, cool.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? It's going to be running in beautiful paths, epic scenery.
Hopefully, like, on actual tarmac. Tarmac would have been great.
No. It was a trail run, okay?
A full-on trail run.
Full-on trail run by two individuals
who have done no hill work.
Never done or wanted to do a trail run. It's not something I ever wanted to get into.
Well, you accidentally ticked that box.
Nor did we do enough. We did some hill training.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we went to Richmond Park.
Which
has hills.
And it's got gravel.
But I don't even know how I would prepare differently for that run because we don't have hills around us.
Surely there's a different training plan. Do you know what I mean?
The description did say challenging course.
It did say challenging.
Think it would be that challenging.
But I thought it was going to be a typical British thing, right? Challenging. So I'm like, challenging. It's not going to be challenging. But no, it did do that typical British thing where they underplay stuff. It's like, oh, how are you doing? You suffering from pneumonia? Yeah, no, I'm fine. Like, I'll make it sort of thing. This was the most challenging thing I ever did. And I'll tell you, I was in a very dark place, like 8Ks in. I didn't think I was going to do it.
You were in a very dark place.
Yes,
I can confirm. But it was fine because we gave each other a little bit of a pep talk. The thing that drew us into the run was the wine stops.
Yeah.
And so we were queuing for our wine.
Yeah.
On a trail where we had nowhere else to go because we couldn't go past. It was all single file trail.
Single file trail.
And we had a little pep talk.
We did.
After that,
I felt better.
We did proceed to then climb stairs on a trail.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Stairs. There were literal stairs in the middle of our 21K.
Fortunately, by that point, we'd had a little pep talk.
Yes,
we agreed that this is basically a hike.
Yeah.
With some running.
Yeah.
And it did get better.
It did get a lot better. It really did. We had those nice little downhills. Yes. Towards the end, once again, like 16, 17 Ks, the dark place, the darkness arose again. And then it was like that for about a K. Then it lifted us out because we knew we were nearly done.
Exactly. And
but
we
well
saw
done to
friends
us.
And family.
Yes, we saw some friends and family.
Always good to have support.
Which was lovely, but I think we deserve a fucking medal. We got
one.
We got a medal that me and you proceeded to wear the whole day yesterday.
Yeah, we changed out of our running gear, but kept our medal on. Because we deserved all that adoration for our achievement.
I feel like we did get it.
No, I think we did. To be fair, they did.
We were like the princesses at the table. It was like, can I get you? Yes, you can. Get me another wine. But yes, that was the high. The low. And the low, because it was so intense.
Do you have another low?
My hips are sore.
Yeah,
my hips are really, really sore. But no, that is, my high is we did it. The low is the dark places that I went to on said run. 0 to 8Ks, and then again I would say about 16.5 to about 18. So for about almost half the run I was in a pretty dark place. Actually, add those up. I'm glad it's done.
You did brilliantly, and I'm definitely signing us all up for it next year.
Well, the only reason why I made it is because of you. I literally would not. You kept me going for the first 8K, so thank you.
Oh, absolute pleasure. It was a dark place for me.
Well, you didn't seem like it. You were just going. I was like,
it's like
oh
chopper jobs.
Yeah, you were like, no, we can do this. Okay, do you want to walk? Okay, should we run now? Okay, there's a hill. Okay, this is flat. I was like,
this is not flat.
Fucking flat.
No, it was really good fun. It really was. And definitely a wholesome way to spend a Sunday.
Very wholesome way to spend a Sunday. I think the vibe was really good.
Yeah,
the vibe was really, really good.
Rent-free? Anything that's been running through your head incessantly during your run?
During my run. So, on TikTok, there's this guy. He's in America. So what he does is he like sets the camera up. He's got a little like boombox speaker, and he plays Kesha, "My Love Is Your Drug."
Okay.
Which is super catchy. And then he does the white girl dance, because let's be honest, us white girls, we all have a dance, moving our hands and like we do this. And he tries to get strangers to do the white girl dance with him, and it's become such a thing because he literally will set it up and people will see him from like across the road.
Run.
They're like, "You're doing the white girl dance, you're doing the white girl dance." And then they play it and then start dancing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it just brings me so much joy and so much happiness. And then I've had Kesha's "My Love Is Your Drug" in my head on repeat for the last like week. On Saturday I was doing grocery shopping, and randomly that song came on, and I was driving through Richmond. I was
jamming.
Like, your love. It's no joke, but it's just so cute. I absolutely love it, and like it makes me really happy. So then I was like, maybe I should start doing that.
Yeah. Should we do the white girl dance?
Should we do the white girl dance and tag him? So yeah, that's been living rent free. What's been in your head?
I feel like I'm about to take this from like very cheerful to very depressing real quick. A TV show that we have been watching has got my brain mashed potato.
Yeah.
I'm constantly thinking about it and just thinking about how the fact that being a woman is so political. But anyway, I don't want to give it away because I think the story is just so good that you should just watch it. But TV show on Apple TV called Disclaimer. It's got Kate Blanchett and Sacha Baron Cohen in it.
Somebody else, Kevin Kline.
And Kevin Kline, exactly. And basically, as I said, not giving anything away, it is a story about a woman who gets a novel written about her, and it essentially exposes her darkest secret.
Yeah.
It is just so well done, and it is, I think it's considered like a thriller.
But I think it is.
I think it really is such an interesting and sort of topical thing to look at women and the way that women are perceived and that sort of thing. So give it a watch.
Let
us know what you think. Maybe we can talk about it another time.
Well, I mean, I told you guys to watch it, and it caused a couple of debates in my house, but I think necessary conversations that need to be had. I would say it's a bit slow, but I would say in terms of the topic, it's probably one of the only series I've watched and it's actually raised so many questions, and they've done it so well because I think they've layered the characters and they've made her the super powerful woman, and then it's how everything gets ripped out like from under her feet sort of thing, and just the relationship with her husband, the relationship with her child. It's unbelievable, brilliant.
Let's get straight into this episode. What is anxiety? Let's start with a big question.
What
sort
is
of explaining really what it means to have anxiety.
Anxiety is the body's natural response to stress. It's a feeling of fear, worry, or unease, like that uncomfortable feeling where just something's not really like kind of sitting right. You can't put your finger on it. It becomes a disorder. So I think that there's a key thing here. So anxiety is something that every single person will experience multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And it could be something as small as, oh my gosh, did I turn the hair straightener off? Or, oh my gosh, did I lock the door? To, I don't know, I'm driving, I'm worried that somebody's going to crash into me, right? So I don't think that's that unease, that uncomfortable thing is. But it becomes a disorder when it's persistent, constantly overwhelming, and interferes with daily life. From an evolutionary standpoint, anxiety has always served as a survival mechanism, heightening alertness to potential threats. That's also super interesting because, and we'll get into the anxiety journey, but I remember something that was so interesting for me when I first started doing therapy was my therapist said to me, when you are consistently in that anxious state, you're constantly in fight or flight mode. So the amount of cortisol that is producing, and cortisol also has an adverse effect on the body as well. So it affects your cognitive functioning. It does mess a bit with your body's functioning.
Well, it can also mess with your physical health.
Well, that's the thing. That's when people start getting that physical, visceral sort of reactions to things. Something that I learned, and I would say only a couple of years ago, as recent as 3-4 years ago, is that there is a difference between a panic attack and anxiety.
Okay.
So I always used to lump it together.
Yeah, it's just one thing. So what is that actual difference?
So anxiety, it's feeling of fear, worry, unease.
Yeah.
Where panic attack is a sudden episode of intense fear, often peaking within minutes. It's a very physical sort of reaction, so chest tightness, racing heart, dizziness, shortness of breath, fears of losing control, or like actually you feel like you're going crazy. It can also be mistaken for a heart attack, and that also leads to even more distress. Like ding, light bulb moment is I was listening to a podcast, and those that have been listening to this podcast will remember that I used to be a big fan of Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, and it was actually, fun enough, one of his podcasts. She's an American singer. I don't remember her name, but I will find the episode. And she explained that it was almost like an irrational fear of doing something. It was like she was driving somewhere in the US and it was quite windy, and she's like, she actually thought she was going to drive off the road. She literally pictured in her mind driving off the road, and she's like, what happened? Her heart started racing. She couldn't breathe. She like started shaking, and she was like, I'm in control of this car, but she literally could picture herself driving off the road. So it was like, okay, that's what it is. And she then ended up speaking about how she went through her life and she had anxiety about certain things, but the panic attack thing was so real to her that's when she was like, okay, I'm suffering from panic attacks as opposed to suffering more from anxiety.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I also think what is quite interesting is how, because panic attacks can sometimes be, they feel like heart attacks.
Yeah.
It can work the other way around as well, especially for women. So there's a perception that women suffer more with anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that. And when they present in hospitals, it's often then brushed off as panic attacks when there is a very maybe small chance, especially in younger women, but it could actually be something more serious 100%. Like a heart attack, but it's treated as a panic attack.
Yeah.
So there is that disparity in care, and it sort of works both ways, because you feel like you're having a heart attack, you're mostly probably having a panic attack, but in treatment, it can be overlooked.
It can be overlooked. I think something that is quite scary, though, and somebody that's suffered from panic attacks, is that your mind is such a powerful thing, and you don't realize how powerful your mind is.
Yeah.
Where you literally think you are having a heart attack and you are going to die. And I think it has been dismissed, and I've been in situations where it's been taken very seriously, but I've also been in situations where it has been dismissed as well. And I think that also maybe lends itself to the history of anxiety, and I would say, in the last 5-6 years has only this stuff started being taken seriously?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think people are maybe a bit more aware of the fact that it's okay to not be okay, which is a bit of a theme for this episode, I think.
Yeah.
And so people are being more open about talking about the anxiety too, which is really positive.
Yeah.
But also, really challenging, because so many people actually do struggle with anxiety.
And it depends who you speak to, right?
Yeah.
It completely depends who you speak to. If you've never experienced anxiety and I'm coming to you, somebody that has experienced anxiety and panic attack, I'm telling you how I feel, you're gonna feel some form of empathy towards it, but you're actually not gonna understand it.
Yeah.
And I think and that's completely fine. Like, I'm not by no means saying that it's good or bad thing. I think that's fine, but I think people, a lot more care. While yes, a lot of care has been, and there's a lot more emphasis, I think there probably needs to be a bit more sympathy, because it is becoming a lot more prevalent. And I think I've had conversations with some people and they're like, oh, everyone's suffering from anxiety these days. And it's like, well, it's not really something you can't just really like push it under the rug. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty serious.
And having anxiety in certain situations is different from having an anxiety disorder.
100%.
Or being triggered by very specific things that make your anxiety worse.
Yes.
And so we need to decouple those things. Like everyone experiences some level of anxiety.
100%.
Nobody is free from it, but there are those examples where you're specifically suffering from an anxiety disorder.
If it's persistent.
Exactly. Persistent. It could be a period of time in your life. It could be something you live with throughout your life. That's the thing, is that there's a lot of complexity to it.
There's a lot of complexity to it. And I think a lot more than what we realize.
I completely agree with you. So let's look at sort of the history of anxiety.
Yeah.
In ancient times, if we look at sort of writings from Hippocrates, so we're thinking like 5th century.
Old.
BC, yeah, very old.
Old. Christ? Is BC before Christ?
Yeah, that is.
Okay. All right.
So like really old.
Yeah.
Describe phobias and states resembling panic attacks. So there's just some indication that this is something that has been around for a really long time. Like really long time. We're jumping forward.
Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Wasn't interested in anything.
No,
anything
doesn't care
anything between Asian times and 19th century. Was
19th century, yeah,
happens.
exactly.
Cool. We're just gonna lump it all in.
Exactly. This is one of the darker times in women's history, but anxiety in women was often dismissed as hysteria.
Yeah.
Reflecting both gender bias and lack of understanding.
Yeah, which is what we've obviously just briefly touched on.
Exactly. So really not much has changed. 20th century, so slightly more recent, anxiety disorders become recognized as distinct from depression, which is very interesting.
That is very interesting because I think anxiety, you would always, I remember growing up when I would have been 11, 12, 13, anxiety and depression were one thing.
Exactly. And then our modern understanding is really that shift towards a medical and psychological model. So we recognize biological, psychological, and social factors that all play into anxiety as a whole.
Yeah. Just touching on that anxiety disorders, I think anxiety can definitely lead to depression. And I think depression can definitely lead to anxiety.
Yeah, there is certainly a link.
There's definitely a link. And I do sometimes think the line can be a bit blurred, especially if you've never suffered from it before. That's the thing. Anxiety is not linear. Depression is not linear. Mental health is not linear. And I think sometimes what happens is that something's just not right. Something just doesn't feel right. And then you don't know what it is because you've never experienced it. And then you automatically think it must be anxiety, but it could actually be depression. Because sometimes they do interlink, but they are fundamentally quite different.
Yeah, and I also think when we talk about mental health in general, it can be quite isolating.
Yeah.
And that isolation can then often lead to other manifestations of anxiety disorders or any mental health disorders that you may encounter.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So for you, what did your anxiety journey really look like?
If I think back, I probably growing up always had periods of anxiety, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand this feeling. But my journey specifically actually started with panic attacks.
Okay, so you went straight into those panic attacks.
My body was just like, we're going to skip anxiety. Anxiety's for sissies. We're going to go straight into panic attacks. Which at this stage I thought was anxiety. I didn't know what it was. I literally didn't know what it was. We'd moved from Johannesburg to Cape Town. We'd been there for a couple of months a year. And bearing in mind, we'd moved to a place in South Africa where my family was there. It was the first time I was living in the same place as my family for 10 years. So so support system, brilliant. John had a great job. He was running his own company. Financially, we were very stable. I still had the same job from Johannesburg. I'd moved down with them. They were like, yes, please work remotely. So I had the support system. We financially were doing absolutely fine. Cape Town's beautiful. I had the wine farms. I had the ocean, whatever. So from an outsider, it was like, perfect.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, I was sitting at home and we actually had some friends that were in the process of moving to Cape Town and they were there and John was out or something. I just remember getting this weird, like overwhelming feeling like all across my chest and like everywhere. And I couldn't sit still. I couldn't actually be in my skin. I literally could not be in my skin. I don't know if you've ever felt like that. And I was like shaky and jumpy, and I was like, okay, I need to go to the hospital.
There's something wrong with me.
And then I'm like, but how am I going to drive to the hospital? I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to crash my car. Like, I can see it. I'm going to crash my car. And I'm like, well, you have to go to the hospital. I remember so much so, and this was a manual car, not automatic, that I couldn't actually change gears because my leg was jumping so much.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like my body had this visceral reaction to something, but it was just so wild because I was like, what the hell is going on? So anyway, rushed to the doctor, and I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. ER in South Africa. I went to A&E essentially, and there wasn't a lot of people there, whatever. So walked in, and they took me to the triage sort of room. They measured my blood pressure. Blood pressure was sky high, and I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna die.
I'm having a heart attack.
I'm gonna die. Having a heart attack. Anyway, so they take me through to the back, and they were like, look, she's having all these pains. Let's see to her quickly. Anyways, doctor comes through. He takes my blood pressure again. He's like, look, your blood pressure is obviously heightened, but you are stressed and you're in a hospital, so that's probably why. He's like, let me do a EEG. Put me on this EEG machine, and he's like, no, like, your heart's beating absolutely normal. Everything looks pretty good. He's like, do you suffer from anxiety? So I was like, no, I don't. Like, this is a panic attack. Like, you're having I was like, cool. Awesome.
New level of adulthood unlocked.
And then he's like, are you on medication? I was like, no. And I was like, I'm not taking medication. Like, I'm not going to do that. And yeah, went home and I didn't tell anyone. I was I'm not telling anyone because, like I said, going back to vulnerability, I'm really afraid to be vulnerable because I've always been seen as a strong, steady, stable one. So I was like, I can't tell anyone. People are going to think I'm like, lost my head sort of thing. It kind of continued, that kind of whole panic attack, because then what happened is that I was in constant fight or flight. So my body was producing all this cortisol, right? And that started and continued, and I took myself subsequently, I would say within like a 6 months stint, I probably took myself to the ER about 4 or 5 times.
And did you tell anyone about those?
So then I slowly started to tell John what was happening. Okay. And I was like, right, this is kind of happening. I don't really know what it is. I don't know. And then I don't know how to deal with it. In between the panic attacks, the anxiety started creeping in because then it was like I was so afraid that I was going to get a panic attack.
Okay.
And then subsequently what started happening is I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start drinking more because it calms me down. But then the adverse effect happens because you start drinking more. The next morning you wake up and you're hungover.
And the anxiety is so much worse.
Because my anxiety manifests in health anxiety.
Yeah, you were saying.
Health anxiety is a thing, right? And let's be honest, when you're hungover, you are tired. You do have a headache. And then so if it wasn't a heart attack, it was a brain tumor or hypertension. So that kind of started going on for about 6 months. And John kind of knew what was happening. I don't think he realized how serious it was, but he kind of knew. And I think the catalyst for me when I started actually getting help, bearing in mind my family did not know about this at all. The only person I was told was John. That's it. I'm not telling anyone. And I think the catalyst for me is the one day I was at work, and in South Africa, no public transport, so we drive, and my office was, call it about 14, 15 miles away from where we lived. And I used to be so scared that it would happen at work. So I'd have a very, like a strict routine in order to mitigate these panic attacks, right? And I would always be so nervous that it would happen at work. And one day it did happen at work, and I had to call John. And I was like, I am freaking the fuck out. Like, I don't know what to do. But then it's an embarrassment. I was so embarrassed to tell anybody
what was happening,
what was actually happening, that I made some excuse to my manager. I was like, I feel really weird. Like, I can't see. And I literally couldn't see out of my one eye. Like, it was bizarre.
It is so interesting how it like manifests so physically.
Mine has always been physical, like always. When I say I felt like I couldn't keep my head up. Like, my head was literally like lolling to the side and I couldn't see out of my one eye. So anyway, so they were like, They were really nice about it, thankfully. And yeah, John came to fetch me and he took me to the hospital. So I've been going through these panic attacks for, I would say, close to 8-9 months. Took me to the hospital once again, did all these checks. Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And that was when I was like, I think something's wrong. I think we maybe need to start doing something about it. And anybody that knows that suffers from anxiety or health anxiety, first place you go is a doctor, right? So doctor, off to the GP, does a whole bunch of tests. I think also a lot of it also stemmed from like my family history as well, having history with my father who had heart issues and obviously passed away young, so I think that's always played in my mind. So anyway, I started going to doctors, but then the problem was that I started becoming obsessed with going to doctors as well.
Okay,
because
yeah, so almost like hypochondria aspect of
100% hypochondria aspects. If I'd wake up in the morning and something felt, or I almost forgot what it felt like to feel normal. My brain was like telling me that every morning I get up, like there'd be a new ache, and then I'm like,
and then there's something wrong, and it's always the worst thing.
And it's always the worst thing, like catastrophizing something. So constantly going to doctors. And that's what I said initially, is that sometimes it's like I was treated very much like, okay, let's look at your symptoms, let's do this, let's take your blood pressure, let's send you for blood tests. The amount of fucking blood tests I have had, let me tell you, the amount of blood, the amount of money, thank goodness for private medical aid that we had.
Yeah.
But the amount of money that was spent. And then other times it was like, there's nothing wrong with you, it's just anxiety. And I'm like, no, but there must be. There is.
There's something physically wrong with me. I'm definitely dying. When they said that it was just your anxiety, not that it's just, but this is the thing, would they then take it the next step and say, we would recommend X, Y, and Z for you? Or was it, no, there's nothing wrong with you, you've got anxiety, go home?
So they would always want to put me on medication, and I was like, no, but if I take the medication, I'm going to have an adverse side effect from the said medication. Literally.
But when you're in that state, I laugh about it. No, but it's in that state, you can't see that. You can't see that side effects are very rare and well studied. The positives outweigh the negatives of many of these things. You can't see that.
Totally. And I wonder whether or not it doesn't have, and I think it goes back to family and stuff, it's maybe a weakness to show that vulnerability. If you're a tablet, are you sick? Yeah. I wonder if that maybe has something to do with it. But I think as women, unfortunately, I think our cultural narratives have always minimized our anxiety, right?
Exactly. As just being a little bit
hysterical or upset.
Yeah.
Sometimes when something is wrong with us, which you said, we apparently are twice as likely to be diagnosed with anxiety disorders compared to men.
Yeah.
Partially due to hormonal influences, social roles, and societal pressures. Something that also then is very interesting as well, and that's another whole topic, is how your hormones play into anxiety.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh.
These hormones wreak havoc in our body.
Yeah.
So yeah, health anxiety is just kind of a part of who I am, really.
Going back to the sort of the pills versus therapy kind of thing, because you were touching on that. And I found it really, really interesting that they were often looking to prescribe you medication.
Yeah.
But was there any talk of sort of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, anything like that?
I don't remember, because there's always a big debate, pills versus therapy, right?
Yeah.
Always a massive debate. So I remember throughout that time, and I know I said it was like it was probably longer than 6 to 8 months. I'm just like, I can't remember. So I remember obviously pills. And then, so the first pills I was offered was beta blockers. So beta blockers slow down your heart rate, right? Because I was getting like my heart
palpitations, yeah.
The next I was given was Stressum, which is
anti-anxiety medication. Did they explain that to you?
So they just said, so I remember clearly he was like, no, they give this to students when they study for the exams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There was no talk about therapy. There was no talk about talking to anybody. It was just like medication, like give medication. And I think medication has got its place. Like, I'm an advocate. Like,
such an advocate for it.
Such an advocate. I think finding the right medication is really important.
A
lot of people aren't. It's so hit and miss, but you need to give your body time to obviously get to it.
Yeah.
But eventually I got the pills and I took them, and they definitely helped. But I was still like, I need to go and talk to somebody. So at that stage, I started speaking more and more about it to certain people who I knew suffered from the same thing. It wasn't just to everyone, because that's still quite embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
It's still quite embarrassing to be like, oh no, well, I'm getting panic attacks and I've got this anxiety. I didn't know it was health anxiety. I only found that out many years later, but I've got this anxiety. And I was speaking to somebody and they were like, well, look, I've got a really good therapist. Like, do you want to go? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a bash. Well, and it was, I'm going to go once, and if I don't go again, it's fine. And it was specifically after the last time John fetched me
from work.
I think he was just like, I don't know how to help you because I don't know what it feels like. I haven't really experienced it. And I was like, no, I need to kind of help myself. I think I was so tired of feeling this way. And I started going to therapy, and I was there for 2 years. I was in that therapy for 2 years. And let me tell you, therapy is great. It is fantastic. I loved it. And then I stopped because I learned the tools. So the therapy I've done in my life is like a lot of CBT. Like a lot of CBT stuff, but also just like general speaking therapy as well. I don't know what the medical...
Talking therapy is what they call it here.
Yeah, just like talking. So I did talking therapy for 2 years with the same person, and then I did a bit of CBT with him as well. Loved it, like couldn't recommend it more. But then I got to a stage where it was like, I'm actually okay, like I'm all right.
And you felt like you had the tools.
And I kind of had the tools, and I was like, cool, I'm going to move on. And then the anxiety started becoming like really, really manageable. I think we touched on it a lot in last week's episode about like moving to the UK. And I remember I said to you, I was like, cool, moved to the UK like 9 months, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, then you had that triggering.
Then I had triggering, and then I went back to therapy because it helped me before, and I did 6 or 7 months therapy at CBT. Also, once again, the health anxiety reared its head. Bought myself a blood pressure machine.
Yes.
And the thing is, and I'm not trying to knock, I know I'm like jumping around the topics, but I'm just like speaking as I think about it. And I'm not trying to knock the NHS. The NHS is great. They've done the most amazing things to people that I've know of. But the reality is, if you're going to a doctor here, you have to beg them to check your blood pressure, check your eyes, check this.
Yeah.
And it was after COVID, and I started getting my weird headaches and my blood pressure, and I'm like, it must be hypertension. That's why I'm getting these headaches. And I was Googling all my headaches. Anyway, goes to the doctor, and I literally explained to him, I was like, right, I suffer from health anxiety, this. Gave him my dad's background, because obviously my dad had heart disease. And he was like, yeah, well, maybe just get yourself a blood pressure machine to check it. Would recommend you going to go speak to somebody. And I was like, thanks.
I could have diagnosed myself.
Thanks. But anyway, went back to therapy. Therapy was great. CBT, still got the blood pressure machine rooting around somewhere. Haven't used it since, but there was like a space for 6 months where I was like...
Yeah. Checking it constantly.
Oh my gosh, constantly. And then like Googling like,
what is high blood pressure?
What is the high low? Okay, but if the high is high and the low is low, is that okay? And what is it? But then the problem is, the minute you want to go, you immediately start stressing. Your blood pressure is obviously going to go up. To be higher.
Exactly.
It's going to go high. We were talking about also, that was when I was in my highly functioning control-free for green juices, the vacuuming. So I believe in both. I think pills are fantastic. I think therapy, controversial, I do think you need both. Sometimes you do need both. Yeah. And my personal opinion, and it's not for everyone, is I would always try therapy first before I went into pills. And that's just my opinion.
I think it does depend how you present and sort of the situation that you're in at the time, because sometimes those things do need to come together.
Yeah.
But I do agree that therapy must be part of that conversation. It's really interesting. I spoke a little bit about my social anxiety a couple of weeks ago. And when I went back to South Africa, I went to the doctor for something else. And then while I was at the doctor, I sort of said, I've been getting these like frights. So I get like, not now, I don't, but everything would give me a fright. So a loud noise would give me a huge fright. But things like all the time, things that shouldn't be giving you frights. And so I was having like this very physical reaction. And so then she asked some questions, and that was when I got put on Stressum.
Oh, Stressum.
At no point did she say, I think this might be anxiety or some anxiety related stuff. She was just like, let's put you on Stressum. And if I hadn't sort of Googled it and figured out what I was actually on, and then I didn't even stay on it for the whole period of time, it was great when I was on it. My goodness. What a wonderful little drug.
Urbanol. There's a lovely little drug called Urbanol as well.
But at no point was there any discussion about like managing my anxiety. It was just, here, take this and hopefully it'll go away kind of thing. Which, if you're not talking about it and you're not trying to figure out what might be the trigger for these things, what to do in these situations, then you're just sort of putting a plaster on the actual bullet wound.
But do you not maybe think that, and this is kind of just off the topping of my head, do you not maybe think it's because if you think of medicine and doctors, they're taught how to fix people.
Yeah, and this does fix it. It's like, here's the thing.
But there's no connection between fixing here and fixing here. And I think definitely, and I'm not a doctor at all.
Yeah, neither am I.
I'm not a doctor, but I think maybe there's a bit of a disconnect between, in the medical professional, with doctors just seeing the physical and trying to sort out the physical. There is a doctor that I went to... Yeah, that I went to, one of the many doctors that I went to, and I must admit, he was very good at being like, okay, the mental, kind of connecting the dots between the mental and the physical.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot more doctors could do that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping also that is sort of moving in that direction. So where are you sort of now in your journey, and what have you learned throughout this journey?
So I'm definitely a lot more in control of my anxiety. I'd be lying, I said, if it doesn't rear its head sometimes, but nowhere near what it was. Therapy worked really well for me, so I'm like really lucky and really fortunate that I've never had to be on, other than my stress and my beta blockers.
Yeah.
I've never been on any sort of long-term medicine. And flip, if I need to go on one day, I'll fucking do it. Like, I am not scared to put my hand up and give me the drugs. So I'm not opposed to it, but worked really hard on the therapy, worked really hard to get into a place where I am in control. And I've just, I think I'm definitely a lot more in control than what I was. And I think something that I've learned, something that's really helped me, is talking about it. Mm-hmm. Just really talking about it and being open and honest about the fact of how you're feeling. And even if it seems silly in your head, just opening your mouth. Anxiety is very sneaky, very, very sneaky, and it can hit you at any time. Sometimes I wouldn't have had a panic attack in 2 years, and I'll get a panic attack, and there'd be no explanation for a trigger. The trigger, everything could be absolutely going fine, and it'll happen. So I think the happier, more in control because of the therapy that I've had, and I still remember how to obviously put into practice. I've learned to talk, but also to remember that anxiety is always there.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should be scared of it.
No, it's just learning to manage.
It's just learning to manage it.
Yeah. And I really think the big thing here is it is okay to not be okay.
100%.
And it is not a reflection of your life.
No.
I think, and that's maybe what keeps people from sometimes talking about anxiety and things like depression, is then there's nothing wrong in my life. Why I shouldn't be feeling this way?
Yeah.
What do I have to be anxious about? But that anxiety doesn't care about that.
It doesn't care.
No, it doesn't. Let's wrap it up. It was very interesting to hear all about your anxiety journey.
I mean, layers.
Yeah, like an onion.
Like an onion.
You do have layers, and it's refreshing that you are speaking about it and you're being vulnerable. So well done.
Oh, yay. Pat on the back for moi. It must be because I'm so knackered after my 21-kilometer trail run.
Yeah, I'm taking advantage of you.
Yeah, take advantage of me now. Next week I'm back at it. But we hope you've enjoyed. We've enjoyed recording it. Like, listen, subscribe.
Yeah, and then we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.